Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Author DS Spice. Today's manifestation technique is known as your positive self. Now, what happens is like I keep talking about your positive self that exists within you, which is your higher vibration that resides within you. But there are many people who come across and say that, how can you say that this kind of positive self exists? I need clarity on this subject. So, I've brought up this video to give you more clarity on the existence of your positive self and hope by the end of it you can get a clarity. Now, if the step one is if something doesn't feel good, catch it early on. There are certain things that make you feel good, go with it. Certain things that worry you, disappoint you, or anything, catch it early on and stop it right away. Do not allow those thoughts do not allow those thoughts to go ahead. Okay, so catch it early on, catch the thoughts that are leading you towards not feeling good and stop it immediately. Okay, that is step one. Step two, you need to remember that you are a constant work in progress. You're a constant work in progress, always you're following the guidance that's given by your positive self, and you are going ahead, you are making the progress. You will never get it wrong, because as long as you are guided by your inner being, don't be judgmental about the steps that you take. You are not going to get it wrong anyways. Okay, every step that you take is a right step. So that's step number two. Now step number three is your positive self has your back. Your inner being, your positive self, or your higher vibration that's within you, it always has your back, in the sense that you and your positive self are in this game together. Like you are manifesting something, it's not like your positive self is doing something else. It is also with you guiding you towards your step towards this manifestation. So you and your positive self are in this together. Your positive self is a big fan of you, right? It's a big fan of you. Whatever you're doing, it's a big fan of you. And your positive self is the one that truly adores you. It adores you. Okay, so that's step number three. Now step number four. See, if your positive self did not exist, let's say your positive self did not exist, then you could not feel that feeling of its absence. Get my point? You will not get that feeling of its absence. Now, if you feel the resistance to where you don't want to go, like there are certain areas where you don't want to go, you don't want to talk about it, or you don't want to go to certain things, then if you are feeling the resistance to where you don't want to go, it means that there exists such a thing as a positive self. Now, if such a positive self wouldn't have been there, you wouldn't have gotten that resistance, right? So that resistance is there. You don't want to go to certain areas, right? So this is one of the proofs that shows that your positive self exists. Now let me reiterate, if your positive self did not exist, you could not feel that feeling of its absence. Now if you feel that resistance to where you don't want to go, it means that there exists such a thing as a positive self. Okay, so that's step number four. Now step number five, if there were no positive self calling you home, in the sense calling you towards the your inner being, calling you towards your positive self. Now if there was no such thing as a positive self calling you home, you would not experience any resistance where you don't want to go. You would go in our areas, right? You will not be having that sense of direction of where, or sense of direction, or the guidance where you need to go to get your manifestation, right? So the fact that if there were no positive self calling you home, you would not experience any resistance to where you don't want to go. Now the fact that you are experiencing resistance means that your positive self exists, correct? If you're experiencing the resistance to certain things that you want to do, certain things you don't want to do, certain thoughts that keep coming, certain thoughts, certain kind of thing, that kind of mechanism exists within you, means that your positive self exists within you. Your guidance system exists within you to show you the clarity of which step you need to take. It gives you the resistance towards areas that you do not want to tread on. Okay, that is step number 5. Now, step number 6. So, when you acknowledge that your positive self exists, as you begin to acknowledge that your positive self exists, you catch yourself whenever you're blaming anyone or whenever you're having a non-appreciative thought. Let's say there is some kind of disruption in your thoughts, and naturally you begin to blame someone, right? So when you have that acknowledgement from your positive self, when you are acknowledging that your positive self exists, you're no longer in that zone where you blame things to different people or different things happening. You'll stop blaming things. You'll become more appreciative of anything that keeps happening to you. Now, when you acknowledge that your positive self exists, you catch yourself whenever you're blaming anyone, whenever you're having a non-appreciative thought. Okay, so that's step number 6. Now, step number 7 is whatever you're thinking, your positive self is also thinking. It's an accomplice. You are in this game together, as I already told you. So whatever you are thinking about is what your positive self is also thinking about every single time. You think about something, you want to do something, your positive self also wants you to do a certain thing. Now, your positive self exists. It is your guidance to when you feel good and when you feel bad. Now, it's a sort of a guidance that exists within you. Like, you go into the areas where you feel good. That's sort of guidance. Where you feel good is what your next logical step is all about. So what you're thinking about is what your positive self is also thinking about every single time. Now, your positive self exists. It is your guidance to when you feel good and feel bad. If you're feeling the emotions, it means to say that your positive self exists. Your opinion might differ from your positive self. Now, that's different. See, you may have a certain opinion about you, but your inner being, right, it adores you. It's a big fan of you. For example, right, if you want to dance, but then you begin to feel that, okay, I got 2 left feet, I'm so mechanical, I don't have the grace. But that is your opinion about you. Your inner being will not think of you like that. Your inner being, your positive self that exists within you, it's a big fan. It adores your step. Okay, you want to do this. You want to do dancing, right? Your inner being will always say, yes, this is what that makes you feel good, go ahead. But what the opinion that it has about you is, it may vary from the opinion that you are having about yourself. Okay, so that kind of clarity is there. Your inner guidance system always says, okay, this is what makes you feel good, go ahead. But it's you, in your opinion, that you are giving certain opinions that blah blah blah, whatever. Okay, so that's step number 7. Now, step number 8. Why do contrasts exist? Now, the purpose of contrast is to sharpen your ability to focus. Now, in darkness, if you are seeing some light, it will sharpen your focus and you will move towards the light, right? That's why all these negative emotions exist. The negative emotions exist so that you get clarity on what you want, right? So, the purpose of contrast is to sharpen your ability to focus to dark and light. Okay? When you see dark, you avoid it and you go towards the light. So that's why the contrast exists. If everything were in the same shade, then what are you going to focus on? It's confusing. So the purpose of contrast is to give you the difference between darkness and light. Okay, so the purpose of contrast is to sharpen your ability to focus to dark and light. The purpose of negative emotions is to indicate the contrast so that you can make your decisions. What is feeling good is what you're going to decide on. Where you're seeing the light is where you're going to go. Okay, that's the purpose of having the contrast, and that's the purpose of having these negative emotions. Okay, so that's step number 8. Now, last step, ninth step is your positive self is not asking you to prove your worthiness. It'll never ask you prove yourself worthy, that you are a perfect something. It'll never ask you, because your positive self always thinks that you're very worthy. You're very worthy. It just knows. It just knows you were born to be worthy. It just knows you're worthy. And if you feel like you have to prove something to someone, then you are under the influence of something which is other than this source energy, right? Something else, right? That's of no priority at all. Got it? So, last but not the least, your positive self is never going to ask you to prove your worthiness. It just knows. It just knows. Your positive self just knows that you are worthy. Now, if you feel like you have to prove something to someone, then of course you are under the influence of something other than your positive self. Something that's not in alignment. Okay, guys, so this is the manifestation technique known as your positive self. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. I'll get back to you again with one more technique that that aligns with the law of attraction, which you can utilize it in your day-to-day life. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the likes, comments, shares, and I'll get back to you next Saturday around the same time with one more manifestation technique. Stay tuned. Bye for now.